Welcome to Life on Earth. Welcome to Life on Earth. Welcome to Life on Earth.
Well, hello, you good people. Happy day after solstice. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, your days are getting longer. And for folks down under, well, your nights are getting longer. And approached properly, that could be a very good thing too. Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes, and we all want meat and potatoes for Christmas, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this special episode, I want to see you, all of you who are listening live right now, and I put the links out on my socials. You all should be here right now. It's 3 days until Christmas, and I would love to see you in the chat, and I would love to see some super chat. Click the $, the pound sign, the euro, whatever YouTube is showing you, wherever you are, the currency of preference. Click that icon to support the Ayn Rand Center, your UK. Your hard-earned money goes to support the hardworking folks behind the scenes at the ARCUK, our hosts, our producers, the Lord and Emperor who runs the whole show. Trust me when I say your contributions are greatly appreciated. There's a link right in the chat for signing up to become a member. And again, your super chats go right to the ARCUK. Now, on a recent social media post, a friend of mine, an objectivist friend of mine, shared that he finds being wished happy holidays annoying. Now, a trigger warning, I say Merry Christmas, as I did for dozens of customers earlier this week at Sir John Bennett's, the candy counter in Greenfield Village. Oh my gosh, did Amy and I have a good time. Running old-fashioned candy counter, you know, the old candies in glass jars, and we were, you know, scooping them into paper bags and weighing them out and charging an obscene amount of money because it's a charming place. You can do that. Okay, not obscene, but so much fun. How many people did I say Merry Christmas to? I have no idea. How many people did I say Happy Holidays to? I have no idea. See, when folks say, oh, no, the culture war, politics, if you say Happy Holidays, you're giving into the left. Or if you say Merry Christmas, you are excluding all sorts of, to all of that, I say, nay. Is that what a reindeer would say? In fact, the very notion of you censoring yourself, your own joy, your own benevolence, in the name of some liberal or conservative snowflakeness, somebody's triggers brought on by the culture war, that should make you shudder. It certainly makes me shudder. If I'm going to be triggered by anything, let me be triggered by the very idea of triggers, by the idea that I will let myself be nudged into saying one version of Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or Joyeux Noël or Happy Xmas versus another, as if, you know, being in the trenches of the culture war is more important than my holiday joy and my own goodwill toward men. Now, I refuse on rational grounds, on the grounds of reason and reality. I am more important. You are more important than anything that is going on in the culture right now. Caring about how people express goodwill and about how you return it? Yikes. Talk about falling for triggers. Talk about snowflakes. No. Goodwill still wins the day. But what about those who don't share goodwill? They don't deserve it. What about the crazies on the left and the reactionaries on the right? Well, there's not one, not a single solitary one of them who deserves your time and energy in the form of your venom. Give them neither your time, your attention, nor your high blood pressure. As an advocate of justice, I want to make a crucial distinction. I also want to say hi to the folks in the chat, and thank you. I do like the black shirt with a light jacket. I know it's winter time. You shouldn't be wearing white, but it's also Christmas time. On December 25th, we celebrate the birthday of the great man, a wise man, a man who changed the course of human history away from darkness, ignorance, and irrationality and toward the light of reason and progress. Yes, according to the Julian calendar of his time, on December 25th, a baby was born who would change the world. And that baby was obviously Sir Isaac Newton. Apollo Zeus, says John Galt. Good guess. But there's also the story of this other guy or God born on the 25th. And he's the one who advocated, not just metaphorically, but literally, that you turn the other cheek. It's Matthew 5:38. Jesus says, "You have heard it said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth." Incidentally, when Jesus says, "You have heard it said, eye for tooth for tooth," that's in the freaking Bible. I know New Testament is supposed to overrule the old one. I'm sure all of our Jewish watchers and listeners, and I'm sure there are lots of you out there, are saying, no, 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 no. But in Matthew 5:38, Jesus says, "You have heard it said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also." I don't know what universe that's good advice in. I mean, to hell with that. Hell's the right word. But there is one turn that I, Robert Nasir, do recommend. And it's a crucial and moral one, which some of us don't quite get. And that is not turning the other cheek, but turning away. Newsflash, this just in: you do not have to right every wrong, and sometimes it's immoral to do so. That is specifically when doing so requires a sacrifice on your part. You know, we are well advised in objectivism, in philosophy, in life, to not sanction evil. And if you have any doubts about what moral sanction looks like, you know, read or reread Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. But there are many, many cases in which simply walking away is no sanction and is, in fact, all of the justice that is required. You know, when it comes to politics, when it comes to the culture war, I have done my share of fighting and supporting organizations that are fighting in my name. And I'm not done yet. But I will be damned if I will sacrifice my time and my energy, much less my joy, my benevolence, my happiness, my panache, my joie de vivre, in the name of fighting that which deserves no place in my life. You know, with or without the help, without my help, the whiners and the complainers and the nihilists and the holy rollers, the people who crazy glue themselves to asphalt and artworks, and people who believe their religious beliefs should dictate or abolish my rights, with or without my help, they're going to do whatever the hell they're going to do. And yes, I do. And I will spend some consciously chosen, intentional, budgeted, delimited time and money fighting them. But beyond that, they don't matter. Not day to day. You know, when Dagny Taggart whispers, "We never had to take any of it seriously, did we?" She doesn't mean the fight is over. No, she means, well, the answer she receives later in that section of Atlas Shrugged, that's what she means. Never think of pain or danger or enemies a moment longer than is necessary to fight them. Unquote. So again, I'll be damned, and I use that expression intentionally. I will be damned if I will let anybody else's expectations, that is, anybody who is not earnest, who is not coming from a place of goodwill and the primacy of values, I'll be damned if I will let them stop me from wishing you Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. This life is not a war. This is nothing like a war. This is a celebration. This is life on earth. For the same reason I love Santa Claus. Big, bold, benevolent, the man of generosity and the man of justice. As James Valiant and I discussed, Santa is not an altruist. Now, on the subject of telling your kids about Santa personally, I think Santa should be handled in the same way we handle fairy tales and plays. It takes nothing whatsoever away. It takes away none of the magic. The magic of fairy tales, the magic of plays, the magic of bedtime stories, to acknowledge, well, yes, it's a fiction, it's a game. No child needs to believe that Easter bunnies and tooth fairies are real, that magic is metaphysical, that it's real and out there, it's not just metaphorical. Nobody needs to believe that to find pleasure and delight. And for just that reason, I love Santa, because I know who Santa is, and I know what Santa is. And that's why I can say Santa is real, and he's just the best. As for gift giving, I recommend right-sizing it until it's all good. 0 sacrifices, 0 guilt. Now, if that means scaling it down to greeting cards and trinkets, so be it. Why on God's green earth would we advocate against self-sacrifice 364 days a year? I'll say that again. Why on earth would we advocate against self-sacrifice 364 days of the year, but accept it on December 25th? No. Giving should never be guilt. It should never be obligation. It should never be duty. But that's also one more good reason to advocate for ambitiousness, because generosity is fun. It's an exaggeration to say all objectivists should be rich, but we should all take our careers and money and finance and abundance seriously. Money isn't everything, but it is something, and something important. Now, in order to both never sacrifice and be generous, well, a certain amount of abundance is required. And that brings me to the topic of charity while we're talking about toxic Christmas. Charity, the optional value. An objectivist friend of mine, a successful businessman in Southeast Michigan, he's in the habit of adopting a family for the holidays. If you've never done this before, that doesn't mean literally bringing them into your house and adopting. What it means is financing their Christmas, whatever it's going to cost for them to have a good Christmas dinner and presents for their children. And this is a thing you can do. And he finds enormous joy, great value in sharing the products of his enormous ambitions, and the happiness that he is able to share because of his own personal passion for success. I don't recommend charity because it's a virtue, but because rationally approached, it is a value. Whether it's direct contributions to organizations like that, or just red kettle contributions, other donations, over tipping during the holidays, or year round, really, since COVID, we've been over tipping. Those people need all the help they can get. Or just helping out whoever you can. It's simply a joy to be able to do so without sacrifice. And in that regard, volunteer opportunities are opportunities. So I say, Amy, Nasir, and I had great fun volunteering at the annual Holiday Nights events at Greenfield Village in Dearborn, Michigan, working the candy counter at Sir John Bennett's place. This is an old-fashioned candy counter, glass jars and licorice and rock candy lollipops and Jolly Ranchers and Bit of Honey and Charleston Chews and all these old style treats. While the regular employees were there and they worked the coffee machine and the hot chocolate and the hot cider and cookies and everything involving dollars and cents, because we were purely volunteers, we got to do just the funnest part of the job. And besides working, we also attended the festivities as guests several times. And that brings me to the topic of Christmas carols. Let me take just a moment to look at the chat. I'm not seeing a super chat yet, although I am seeing some of my favorite people there in the chat. So thank you for joining us. And there were some good comments. Apollo Zeus asks if Isaac Newton was really born on the 25th. He was, but by the Julian calendar. If you look it up by today's calendar, he was born in early January, I believe. But He wasn't alive when the Gregorian calendar was in effect, so I count that as December 25th. Absolutely. Yes. But yeah, I'm not seeing any super chat yet. I want to see a few dollars. Don't care who you are. You put a few dollars in there, I will call you out. You will be my hero for the day. It is 3 days before Christmas. We got to see some love for the ARCUK. Folks are behind the scenes keeping the wheels of this organization turning, and they need to see some of your generosity. If you're not catching this live, that's cool. I know most of our views are after the fact, but there is also the super chat, or excuse me, the super thanks option when you're watching afterward. And if you can send a few dollars our way, you're the best. And I just got a flag saying Daniel Kraus has been a member for 8 months. Well, no surprise there. One of the men behind the scenes who makes it all happen. And that is 2 cool 4 words. And yes, you can also join the YouTube channel besides being a member of ARC UK. And you see that in the comments with the people with the special star and circle there. They are the only ones, incidentally, who have access to those extra emoticons or icons or emoji, whatever the cool kids call them these days. Can't believe they made one of me. Well, there you go. So much fun. And Quentin Lintz is in. He is in for $10. Thank you very much for making my Christmas wishes, at least for this afternoon, come true. And he includes his question, which says, does charity become sacrificial when duty is introduced? And the short answer is yes. The long answer is it can. There have been times when folks have tried to guilt me into doing something. And so you would think, okay, they're making it a duty, I shouldn't do it. And that's true. But there are also times when people will try to guilt me into doing something I actually want to do. And if they're a really important person in the organization, I'll say, well, no, I'm not going to do it at all. I don't function on the basis of guilt. But if they're a trivial person, if they're not an important person, and I really want to do that thing, then I'm not going to let their attempt at applying the duty ethic stop me from getting what I want. And all I mean by all of that is, don't react blindly. If it's just some trivial busybody and they're trying to use the guilt things, you can even say to them, if you want to be sure not to sanction, look, I'm donating to this cause or participating in this activity, but not because you're trying to guilt me into it. That practically turned me off of doing it. No, I'm doing it because it's of value to me, for my own sake, and by my own value hierarchy. Yes, you don't want to have a failure of selfishness. Got to know what you're doing and why you're doing it and why it is ultimately for your own sake. Otherwise, well, you'll be like Daniel, who says, well, now I don't want to do it anymore. Exactly right. But don't let other people have that much control over you. If there's something valuable to you out there, to hell with what those people think. We have another super chat in here, as Apollo Zeus says, pow. Thank you for that. And hopefully you're saying pow because there's some truth bombs in this holiday wisdom, this little bit of share. I would hope so. Free trade is in for 100 krona, 100 Swedish krona, and says, Merry Christmas, Robert, and everybody else at ARC UK. Thank you for that. I do appreciate it. And my shout out is to all of you and all of my co-hosts, all of the producers behind the scenes. And yes, even the Lord and Emperor Razi Ginsburg. We need to find out what his birthday is. That could be the second Christmas, the second coming, as it were. And thank you for that, free trade. Too much fun. So yes, besides working, besides volunteer activities, besides running the candy counter at this great old clock tower that was brought from England to Dearborn, Michigan by Henry Ford as part of this historical museum. Besides that, we attended the festivities as guests several times. And that brings me to the topic of Christmas carols. If you are not a singer, I'm calling you out. If you are not a singer, I encourage you to remember this. Songs are like poetry. Some songs actually are poetry, but songs are like poetry in this way. You can read a poem in a book, and while reading it, you kind of hear its rhythm. You kind of hear a voice in your head, your reading voice. So you've got the rhythm and you've got the rhyme, but it's not the same as reading it out loud. And you should, when you can, you should read poetry out loud. If you have never read a poem out loud, at least not since grade school, that is something I heartily recommend that you do. Look for any simple poems on the internet, or if you have a book of poetry, pull it out. And there's so much good and easy stuff. Anything by Robert Frost, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, anybody whose name you've ever heard of before, look them up on the internet, you'll find their most popular, and read it out loud. And it's a whole different experience. And so with songs, you can hear a caroler or a choir sing a Christmas carol, and it's great. And it can get you right in the feels, and I recommend that you do that. But that is not the same as singing out loud yourself. And it's not the same as singing with others. So the great thing about holiday nights at Greenfield Village is that guests are invited and encouraged to sing along. And in a lot of ways, during carriage rides, they will have a large carriage that fits 20, 25 people in it. And there will be a guitar player, acoustic guitar at the front of the carriage, singing, and everybody else sing along. Or at campfires, and there are campfires all over the village where people stop, and several of them will have people singing, or other singing events at the various historical houses. And during the climax of the evening, when carolers are in front of the town hall building and fireworks are going off down the way, down across the square and over the river, and everybody is encouraged to sing along. I know too many people who don't sing, or won't sing out loud, or won't sing in public. And if you're one of them, and I totally get it. As you know, I am extremely shy and enormously introverted. And no, I'm not kidding. I'm serious about that. But if you are one of those people, or if you know one of them, I encourage you to reconsider. I love the way it's 2022, and I love the way that karaoke is fairly common. If not popular, it's at least fairly common nowadays. And it's great news that Apple is adding that sing-along capability to Apple Music. I got to upgrade my Apple devices. My iPad Pro Generation 2 is one generation too old to work that. But if anybody's tried Apple Music and their karaoke feature, I'd love to hear what you think of it. And something I've got to admit, it took me a while to get over. It took me a while to get over the singing of Christmas carols with religious lyrics. But at some point you start treating Bible stories, at least in this limited domain in connection with the Christmas holiday, you start treating Bible stories like fairy tales. And Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and they're all stories. And more than just a story, they're traditions, and they're metaphors for things. But at some point, you let that religious aspect go. And to the extent that the stories still have something to offer during the holidays, particularly during Christmas carols, that's okay. And finally, I want to wish each and every one of you the Merry Christmas that you so richly deserve. If anybody should be able to enjoy the holidays, it should be you and me and all of us in this community. If you haven't read it yet, see the essay, "This is How Ayn Rand Celebrated Christmas," at the Ayn Rand Institute's website. There is a list of links on my Facebook wall right now. There's also a Twitter link to that list with, I don't even know, 15 or 20 magnificent Christmas links. Some of them are just great. And that one is included in it. From "This is How Ayn Rand Celebrated Christmas." Ayn Rand's friend, Catherine Eichhoff, said in an interview conducted by oral historian Scott McConnell, "Miss Rand thought Christmas was a wonderful thing because it had been so commercialized, and that it was not just a religious holiday at all. It was a joyous giving to people you were fond of, and where every place got beautifully decorated." Friend of Ayn Rand's talking about her. Ayn Rand said in 1976 what she wrote in the objectivist letter, or excuse me, the Ayn Rand letter. She was asked if objectivists should, if atheists should celebrate Christmas. She said, "The charming aspect of Christmas is the fact that it expresses goodwill in a cheerful, happy, benevolent, non-sacrificial way. One says, 'Merry Christmas,' not 'weep and repent.' And the goodwill is expressed in material, earthly form by giving presents to one's friends or by sending them cards in token of remembrance. The best aspect of Christmas is the aspect usually decried by the mystics, the fact that Christmas has been commercialized. The gift buying stimulates an enormous outpouring of ingenuity in the creation of products devoted to a single purpose, to give men pleasure. And the street decorations put up by department stores and other institutions, the Christmas trees, the winking lights, the glittering colors, provide the city with a spectacular display, which only quote unquote commercial greed could afford to give us. One would have to be terribly depressed to resist the wonderful gaiety of that spectacle, unquote Ayn Rand. There are also links to essays and other materials by Leonard Peikoff about Christmas. There's a whole list of them. We have an embarrassment of riches in regard to Christmas when it comes to objectivist materials. If you're not already aware of it all, go to my wall on Facebook, facebook.com/Robert Nasir. You know, that goodwill, to me, that's the essence of the holiday. You can walk down the street and say hello to people you don't even know, kind of thing I guess Europeans sometimes criticize Americans for, but this time of year, more than any other time, and this is the time for that. That goodwill is what I wish for each and every one of you. May your Christmas holiday, however you choose to celebrate it, may it be all good, no guilt, all joy, no duty, all celebration, no anxiety. So let me wrap up with a recommendation, a gift to drive the point home. If you take in Christmas, how you take in Christmas, what it means to you, what that looks like in your life, that is entirely up to you. Amy and I recently listened to Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, read by Tim Curry. Now, if you only know Tim Curry as Frank N. Furter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, trust me, this is a brilliant reading. Nothing whatsoever like that. If you have an Audible subscription, give it a listen. If not, it's really a good reason to sign up. But otherwise, you can go to LibriVox, the free site LibriVox, which I've also linked to in those show notes, and that's a pretty good reading too. But my point here is, well, wasn't Dickens a socialist? Doesn't the tale include altruistic premises? Yes, and yes. Though what that looks like in 1843 is very much different than anything we think of as socialism or altruism in 2022. And neither of those elements are central to the story. Because the story of Scrooge isn't one of selflessness or selfishness. It's a profound failure of self-interest. And the resolution is a man rediscovering what is in his self-interest. I won't give all the reasons here. Amy and I have given them before, and we'll be talking about it again, but I highly recommend the book and the Audible presentation in particular, and the adaptation from 1984. It was originally a television movie, although the quality of it is, especially with George C. Scott acting, on par with any theatrical production. 1984, George C. Scott, A Christmas Carol. It's on YouTube. You can watch it there. A similar mixed case is in the film It's a Wonderful Life. You know, there are good reasons to criticize that film on philosophic grounds. And there are also good reasons to love the film. You know, ditto with singing Christmas carols, especially the classic non-secular tunes. My point is this: giving up substantial values because they are mixed, because they have philosophical problems, that is not necessarily a sign of taking ideas seriously. It is all too often a sign of not taking values seriously, of being insufficiently selfish. Yes, it's a challenge, to keep yourself consistently rational and fully virtuous while enjoying a world full of mixed values. But I believe you're up to the challenge. Anything less would be a sacrifice, and we'll have none of that. So I hope my co-hosts and my producers will allow me the presumption of speaking for everybody at the Ayn Rand Center UK in wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a joyous, passionate, happy life on Earth.